Hello and welcome to The Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora, and for this next hour, I will be speaking about concepts of consciousness and how to navigate reality and perceiving reality from a higher dimensional viewpoint. So first up, I'm Aurora. I'm a galactic walk-in. So I always introduce myself in case you're coming to this recording without any previous knowledge or without any context of where this information comes from. It comes from my direct perception. So I have not gleaned this from reading other people's material or looking at other people's diagrams or artwork. I perceive all of this directly through my third eye, the chakra in the center of my brow, connected to the source, which is my violet chakra at the very crown of my head. And when I activate these two energy centers and run energy through my communication center and, of course, through the clearinghouse of my heart and all the way out to my physical instrument of my physical body, it is expressed through videos, artwork, and recordings, and even music and singing. This is the information of how energy flows in the cosmos. So, first of all, although I'm on the radio, primarily I'm a visual artist, and 6 days of the week I paint a painting literally with a paintbrush. Today I'm painting a painting with my voice, but all the rest of the time I paint and draw. None of my artwork is computer generated except for some computer animations that I created. And if you are on the UCY.TV homepage for Flying Rainbow Lasagna, for The Birth of a New Dimension rather, all you need to do is look to the left of the page and you will see the Twitter feed. You can also access it directly. It's at Birth Dimension. And that is how I can link up with all of the visual imagery that I make to express these truths and also which inspires me. So if you click on some of my paintings, you will notice that I use recurrent patterns that are toruses or tori, donut shapes. And these donut shapes, so you can imagine one donut fitting together at a 90-degree angle with another donut to create a four-vortex shape. And this recurrent four-vortex shape is the shape of the chakras of your body, the shape of your overall energy field, the shape of Earth's magnetosphere, the shape of the heliosphere. It is the shape of the energy field around each tiny atom and subatomic particle, every molecule, and also it is the shape of the galaxy. So basically, we are understanding that these energetic templates are templates that can be applied to what is happening at a tiny microscopic level or at a macroscopic level. And we can use this in order to understand and fill in the blanks by basically comparing what is happening at different scales or different size levels. So one of the concepts that I'm trying to get across is that in one torus is made of two vortexes, all right? And that vortex shape is the shape of a life, a corporeal existence. I have plenty of sketches where you can see this. This is the shape of time. It's the shape of the possibilities and probabilities that comprise one existence. So I'm not even speaking about reincarnation over multiple lifetimes or many different bodies. I am speaking about the shape of your life within one body. Because the topic that I wanted to approach in this dialogue here is about every single thing that can exist, every single possibility in a higher dimensional state. It does exist. But the question is, what reality are you experiencing? So the artwork that I create is a graphic answer. It is an answer to this philosophical question in the format of something that you can look at, not necessarily in the format of words or a prosaic verbal expression. through this recording, I'm creating a prosaic verbal expression that will hopefully clue you in about what my artwork is. So, first of all, in some of these sketches of the time vortex, I show how each timeline has its final denouement, that last bubble. You could think it's like a lollipop, a line with a bubble at the end of it. And all of those bubbles lined up next to one another are what create the membrane of death. This is the flowing membrane that is the boundary of the torus. It is the boundary of time. It is a separating feature between two different levels or layers of density or energy that is moving in two different directions. So we have the area that is inside of the vortex of the torus, and then you have, which would be where the donut hole is, okay? I'm talking about the donut hole. Then you have the area that is the cake part of the donut, inside of the big circle if you're looking at it in a cross section, or what is beyond the edge of the circus tent, if we are using the analogy of the skin of a tent. That you are inside of the tent, you are moving upwards towards the tent, which is the membrane, and what is outside of the tent? And the answer is another dimension. And that membrane, the flowing membrane of death, comprised of all of the last moments, the final denouements, of all of the life movies, of all of the different possible versions of you, that membrane, much like a waterfall or a sheet of moving water or energy, is what separates this life experience from other dimensional realities. And in this model, there is a tiny wormhole, like a little smoke hole at the top of the tent or at the top of the yurt where the tent pole comes inside. And that little tiny wormhole is the aperture through which energy may exit this dimension and enter the next highest dimension. So I've also likened this to different quanta within the subatomic particle realm, with an electron existing at one state of excitement within one electron shell. And when it gets together enough savings and gets together enough energy, it makes that quantum leap to the next energy shell, which is the next level of consciousness. So you and I and the planet and many other beings are currently engaged in that leap of consciousness. And this leap of consciousness is called ascension, okay? And I've also described it as an abyss that cannot be crossed in two steps. It must be crossed all at once. It's like making the big jump across the big gap. And this is how we exit the present level of reality and enter the next level of reality. So, if you do not yet know, you are on an infinite journey of consciousness. Not only does life not end upon death, I laugh at that silly assertion, but life or consciousness, the journey of consciousness, does not end when you have completed the refinement process that is what you are here for in this dimension. So, first of all, yes, there is existence after corporeal life. There's life after death. And second of all, the purpose of your existence is that you are in a refinery of consciousness. Your trajectory, or the direction within which you are traveling, is being gradually changed and maneuvered through your life experiences, through your emotional experiences, so that by the end of this process, your consciousness and the direction in which you are traveling is towards that aperture, the wormhole out of here, and you are in direct alignment with source consciousness, and you have achieved what would be described as ascended mastery. Brief pause while I save my work. So I would describe an ascended master as a person who has lived in the corporeal realm with a flesh and blood body, as you and I, as I presume that my audience here is a flesh and blood audience listening on an actual radio station, that you were created here as this conduit for consciousness, and that through life experiences and emotional experiences and eating food and learning from our breathing in and out and moving through time and everything that entails, that we eventually learn how to align all of our chakras and align our consciousness with the source, which is also the destination. This is like saying you are tuning your consciousness in to the broadcast of a higher consciousness radio station. That is what the source is. So the source I've also described as the 0th dimension. 0, not because it is worth nothing or that it's filled with nothingness, but 0 because it does not require any amount of information to describe one's presence or relative position within that realm. It requires 0 amounts of information to say where you are because everything is there. It's the presence of everything. It's infinity. So far from 0 in this context representing nothingness or worthlessness, 0 in this context represents the totality, like a circle that encompasses everything. That is the source. That is where consciousness derives from. There is a little doorway to the source inside of every subatomic particle, every atom, every molecule, every cell of your body, which is the nucleus, inside of you at the direct top of your spine where it pivots, where your skull pivots on top of your spine, at the intersection of your brow and crown chakra, you've got a direct connection to source right there. Planet that you're on, if I'm presuming that you're on Earth listening to this broadcast, every planet has a direct connection to source. With Earth, it is at its magnetic core, right? The sun, our beautiful nearest star, and every other star has a direct connection to source. This is the doorway to infinity that is at the center of every star. Guess what? Goes further. The supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy that holds everything in alignment through its amazing gravitational forces of attraction also has a direct connection to source, as does every single galaxy. So I hope that you are understanding the profundity of this statement, that all of these are different doorways that all connect into the same room. The room is infinity. The room is the source. It is where your consciousness is coming from, and it is where your consciousness is traveling to. Now, I also like to speak about the realm before the fall. So we are in the physical realm here. When we used to live in a different level of consciousness, we literally occupied a different realm. So this is before the fall of consciousness and concomitant change in our DNA genome and the patterns of twining, the way that our DNA is coiled and supercoiled. That happened roughly 10 or 12,000 years ago. Those changes in our DNA and that reduction in our consciousness literally caused us and all of the life that's on Earth and Earth herself to be shifted into a different dimension. And literally we have been inhabiting a denser realm for about the past 10 or 12,000 years. So our genes changed, our physical format of our corporeal bodies changed, and our consciousness changed. And all of this had an effect on our food and where we get our food from, and affected the entire ecosystem, because we now had to change from beings that consume pure consciousness in the form of light from our sun to beings that have to consume other beings as intermediaries of consciousness. So currently we require chloroplasts to be intermediaries for our consciousness. I can, but not everybody can. I can connect directly to the sun and derive nourishment for my consciousness and the vitality that feeds my cells through sun gazing. This is the practice of connecting my spine or the base of my chakra to earth and gazing at the sun through not only my physical apertures of my physical eyes, but also through the non-physical aperture of my brow chakra connected to the gland inside of my brain that is my pineal gland, and of course all of this connected to the source through my crown. It's like making yourself part of the large biofeedback circuit between planet and star. This is how we were meant to live. However, when I first came into this world as a walk-in, I tried to live and subsist entirely upon light from the sun, and I didn't understand that that was not possible at this time. So I've had to make a compromise. I also eat physical food. I had to learn about eating physical food, chewing up solid objects that are physical intermediaries between yourself and the sun. So I do both. I drink wonderful elixir of life fruit and vegetable juice that I juice out of my garden. And my garden is the intermediary, catching photons that exit the sun. And the photons excite chloroplasts through a very complex set of reactions that is not accidental at all, that did not arise accidentally. Those chloroplasts are then able to transform the non-physical stimulation of a photon into actual cellular matter that can create cellulose, like the building blocks of plants, and also, most importantly, sugars and starches. That photon is translated into sugars and starches so that not only can plants grow and feed themselves, but also so that you and I, animals, can eat plants and live off of plants. Well, I will tell you that the process of ascension that we are undergoing, it is like re-climbing the ladder. We have already descended down a ladder of consciousness, and we have been living in the valley, really in a dark age for a very long time, thousands and thousands of years. All of what is described as human history, the past 5,000 years, that is merely describing the time that we've been in the shadow realm, in the dark valley area. And we are now climbing out of the shadow, climbing the ladder, reassembling our genetic material so that it functions the way it was meant to function. Your body was meant to be a clean engine. Not like a steam engine, not like where you shovel in coal and burn it and use that to create kinetic energy. Ah, I laugh at the absurdity of that notion. No, that is not what you were created. You were created as a supercomputer to ingest the program of nutrition directly from your nearest broadcaster of consciousness, which is the sun. The sun is connected to a stellar network. Every single star is part of this stellar network, which is a network of consciousness. It is not a linear network. It is not limited by your current Einsteinian and Newtonian notions of space and time. And you say, but wait, Aurora, I have studied quantum physics, and I know that Einstein is a step up from Newton, because Newton told us that light had to travel all the way across time and space to get from point A to point B. And Einstein recognizes that there is an interplay between space and time. So it's true. Einstein expanded Earth surface humans' concepts and capacity to understand a little bit more than Newton, and who merely perceived the physical realm. Einstein started to get people to understand time and observership. However, Einstein programmed you with a new set of limitations, all about the speed of light and the cosmological constant, and about whether or not matter can be raised in its frequency to be able to be moving faster than the speed of light. So it's like it just really enlarged the bars of your prison cage a little bit with Einstein. Didn't really take the bars off of the cage at all. In order to take the bars off of the cage, it is necessary to flying rainbow lasagna, to understand the folding of we could call it space and time and consciousness, because Einstein spoke about space and time, but he and science has not yet woven in or factored in consciousness as another aspect or variable in the representation of matter and energy or particles and forces. So even the idea of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle or Schrödinger's cat, this is the problem of observership, the double slit experiment, that observing the possibilities, the uncollapsed waveforms of the fifth dimension and higher affects them. And that is what this broadcast is all about. So in the graphic representation of your life is shaped like a vortex. And if we looked at that vortex from the top down, it would like be looking at a record, an old-fashioned analog record, like from the 1960s. And the song of your life is the groove of that record, beginning from the very outer edge and spiraling gradually inward towards the central spindle. And that is the process of refining your consciousness. And it happens within a corporeal existence. So you must now understand that within each life, you have a multiplicity of possibilities. In some of your possibilities, you died the instant after you were born. Or maybe it was even a stillbirth. You never even got born. In many, and those are all of the lives that are around the very edge of the record. Because it's hard to get born. It's very, very difficult to come into the world. Just being born is a huge success. And then being exposed to all of the pathogenic viruses and microbes in the world means that many, many possible versions of you died within the first year of your life. And many possible versions of you were subjected to either, accident or incident that harmed you. When we are little tiny babies, boy oh boy, we are very vulnerable. Although babies bounce and are made mostly of cartilage, they get dropped. They get subjected to all sorts of different things that can harm them. So babies die quite often. This is part of the learning process. So you have to now understand that whatever age you are, if you are over 18, you have already undergone the refinery process of your consciousness of dying and being reinserted into reality thousands, if not millions of times. Died and you went back to the beginning and tried again. Your temporal ego was unraveled like a skein of yarn, like a sweater that is unraveled, sent back to the beginning and started all over again. And when I say that your life is like a groove or a spiral moving from the outer periphery of this vortex towards the center of this vortex, it means that your consciousness and your chakras become more and more, I keep using the word aligned with, like an arrow that is pointed towards the bullseye of a target. No longer is your consciousness pointed towards the periphery. The periphery is the membrane of death. Pointing at the periphery means that you are moving away from life and towards death. And I have described in the past how conforming with your consciousness, conforming to the harmonic structure of energy as it flows, is like being a musician that actually follows the great symphony of the great composer of the cosmos. When you follow that symphony, when you follow that harmonic pattern of energy, it is called being alive. Your cells maintain their sense of cellular vitality. Your biological body maintains its sense of structure, and you are contextually, successfully embedded within the matrix of reality. Because you're not just a blob, floating in nothingness. You're a biological organism that requires a constant influx of oxygen and life force energy and food and moisture, and also requires a constant exudation of used up energy, carbon dioxide. How about caloric energy, everything that you are exuding, including thought energy. You exist as part of a continuum. You have energy flowing into you and energy flowing out of you. So being alive and achieving a state of health and vitality is not merely about your body in a vacuum or not being submerged in a context. It's about your body and the context within which you are submerged. That means, hey, where are you sitting or standing? What are you surrounded by? What are the life circumstances that are present in your reality? Because believe me, right now I'm sitting on a rocking chair in my porch on a beautiful sunny day. I'm not sitting in the middle of traffic on a busy highway, because if I were, that context would not be supportive of my biological cellular life. I'd get squashed by a giant Mack truck in an instant. So context. It's like real estate, location. It really matters. And this is what your awareness does. Your awareness is like the needle on the record that actually places you within a context. So if we look at the time vortex, that is every chakra on your body is part of that time vortex, and it is the totality of your consciousness. And where, if we imagine a dot somewhere on or within that vortex, that dot is like the needle on the record that is playing those particular quote-unquote notes of the song of your life. So the song of your life is very repetitive. You lived like 10,000 times as a little baby infant and died, after a few hours before you learned to live for one day. But once you learned to live for one day, you got the hang of it. However, think about all of the other life lessons that it was necessary to master speech, master balance and walking. If you drive a car, to master driving a car, to master perception. Just mastering basic gross motor movements was essential towards maintaining your context. Now let's talk about the socioeconomic context within which we are each submerged. In this world, surviving is not just a matter of brutal strength and survival of the fittest. In this world, it is necessary to integrate harmoniously into the social and economic context. You could have a perfectly healthy body, but if you do not have money to buy food, or if you have not made friends with people around you who have food, then your perfectly healthy body will starve and die. So little tiny infants have to learn how to speak, how to express your needs to the world around you, how to ask for what you need and receive it. And of course, within each culture, there are, cultural vagaries. You have a different approach, a different approach to success of getting all of the food, water, nourishment, and love that you need if you're born in India than if you're born in the United States. You have to learn a different language. You have to learn to communicate differently. You have to learn a different set of values in order to succeed. And that goes to not just how to relate to your family members, but how to relate to the rest of society. You go to school in order to learn your context and how to relate to the rest of society. So believe me, each one of us has outliers on the song of our life. Versions of ourself that did not either successfully learn how to speak or how to learn and be part of society. You would be called developmentally disabled or mute or retarded. Basically, a person who is unable to integrate into the world and has less access to nourishment and resources because you have not learned how to integrate in context. So part of the cultivation of consciousness as we are here within this realm and changing our life trajectory, it's not just learning on a cellular level. How to eat and breathe and drink and poop, all of that is important. It is also learning how to relate to the world around us. The culture other people that are like you, other humans that are like you, and the planet. All of the microbes, the microbiome, when you're a tiny child and you're born, you do not have the probiotic benevolent bacteria that need to exist in your intestines just so that you can consume and digest food. This is evidence, in case you haven't clued it in yet, that you were not originally designed to chew up objects and place them in the cauldron of your stomach and digest them probiotically with, a lot of like lactobacillus or something like that. No, your intestines had to be modified. Like, imagine taking an original apparatus and saying, well, it doesn't work quite right, so let's add this thing onto it so that it'll now perform this function. That is what your intestines have been done to. That is what, rather, has been done to your intestines. Your intestines have been modified so that instead of eating light, you now eat physical objects. And in order to do that, not only did we have to change as a society and as a planet after the fall of consciousness about 10 or 12,000 years ago, but within each life, within each incarnation when you're born, you have to be inoculated. This usually happens with breast milk, with the very first milk of mother's breast that contains all of the wonderful probiotics that a little tiny infant's digestive tract needs. And all of those wonderful healthy bacteria go into the baby and then allow it's colonized and becomes a place where the child can now actually receive nourishment from the world around them. If that never happened to you as a biological cellular structure, you would literally starve to death. If I just placed, milk into your stomach without the probiotics to actually digest it, you would literally starve to death. So as soon as you come here with the physical body, it is necessary to form this contextual, benevolent partnership and symbiotic relationship between yourself and the planetary context. So you have to learn how to eat food, how to digest food, how to move your arms and legs, how to move your mouth parts, how to control your sphincters, how to stand in balance and not walk in front of a car, fall downstairs, fall into a fire pit, or, fall onto an electrical grid. Think about all of the tragic ways that little babies die every day just for you to make it to your present age. You died millions of times, but much like the comedic and existentially brilliant movie Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray, each time you died, you were unmade, rewound back to the beginning, and reinserted into reality. And you started again, and you made a different set of choices, lived life in a slightly different pattern, and were able to proceed slightly further down the journey of the trajectory of consciousness before you hit the membrane of death. This is the song of your life. It is literally going through every single possible iteration of every single possibility that can happen in your existence before you finally experience the central core experience of your life. And each one of us has this song. It's the final song on your record. And the final song, it starts at birth. They all start at birth. You live your life. You go through all of these trajectories and all of these life learning experiences. And this song, every other song on the record, ends in death. You live to a certain age, and then something happens and you die. You live, and then something happens and you die. Only in this very last song, you live, and then you do not die. You do not have that crucial final thing that ends your cellular life. Instead, you are given a different mental program to run. Because all of this has to do with our belief system. Our trajectory of consciousness is controlled by what we believe. In ancient Egypt, the keepers of the mystery traditions that were handed down from ancient Atlantis. They eventually made it into a book. It is often mistranslated as the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but it really is called the Egyptian Book of Coming Forth into Day. And this book describes the soul's journey upon death, that the soul has a type of raft. In ancient Egypt, it was called a barque, B-A-R-Q-U-E. And for example, the sun, as it travels across the sky each day, was conceived of as the sun bark of Ra, the great consciousness deity that is our star. That this was a raft for consciousness that journeyed across the heavens each day. And according to their belief system, upon one's own physical demise, you would board your own bark, your own raft. Each plank of your raft is comprised of your beliefs. If your bark is well crafted, it doesn't leak. You can navigate well. You can sail on the cosmic currents of energy into the next world. The Book of Coming Forth into Day is a map of how to do that, how to sail on those currents of energy. Now, before you go out, run out and get the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Tibetan Bardo Todal and some of these other Mayan codices. I will tell you that although it's wonderful to do your research, there is no handbook right now that will prepare you, because we are past the time beyond which prophecy is relevant. Since the creation of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, so that is the hyperdimensional portal that I created so that I could enter into this dimension and live in this realm, in this physical body. On October 8th of 2001 is when the Flying Rainbow Lasagna was created. That's like saying we created a wild card. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a way to shuffle the cards or roll the dice or change around and edit the basic structure of your DNA so that you're no longer limited by everything else that came beforehand. So all of the prophecies that were made prior to the invention and creation of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, that's like saying such and such thing will happen on such and such day. Unless, of course, there's a completely new tool for consciousness that is created that opens the door for completely new avenues of exploration. Well, that is what the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. It is a doorway or a tool for consciousness that allows you could think of it like a pencil and eraser that you can use to rewrite your genetic code. So up until this point, oh yes, there were all of these genetic limitations about cellular life, cellular regeneration, decrepitude, and eventual death. And now, because we have a pencil with an eraser, we can rewrite that book. We can rewrite the rules of disease. We can rewrite the rules of aging. We can rewrite the rules of death. This is your new program. Simply being exposed to the idea that the Flying Rainbow Lasagna exists and that you now no longer have to participate in the old paradigm of cellular decrepitude, degeneration, aging, and death. That is the beginning of being on the ascension timeline. So first, this possibility exists. Now let's go into how to actually embody this possibility. All of this is a mental program. So first of all, the program that you will grow older and die is only that, a program. The only reason why humans up until this point have followed that program is because they saw all of the other generations doing it and did not know that there was another option available. There have been certain wild cards or one-offs throughout history, and these have been known as masters or yogis, or let's call them people who cultivated themselves to an astonishing degree. They did not believe in the limitations that had been programmed into them or exhibited to them, like modeled by their parents and other previous generations, and they said, I believe in something different and or better, and I can do this differently. And they either achieved a great deal of longevity or vitality into extreme old age. Some people have been able to grow new sets of teeth. Oh yes, your baby teeth fell out and you grew an adult set, and then your adult set grew out, and then you weren't toothless. Some people grew a new set. How did they do that? And the answer is they believed in and modeled themselves upon a different pattern of energy. And so let's use as an example, there was one being in ancient China. He lived about 300 years ago, and he lived well into his 2nd century. This is, I'm telling you, you are made to be able to live hundreds, if not thousands of years. So not only through what you eat and what you do, your diet and exercise, but also through breathing techniques and the energetic fields that you are subjected to, you can achieve a great deal of longevity. You would not achieve this level of longevity, let's say, sitting in a modern city, being subjected to all of the random and chaotic electromagnetic fields, eating processed foods, taking pharmacological, chemical agents as your medicines, breathing in the exhaust of cars, that you wouldn't achieve vitality on that level. You can't do it. So the reason why people haven't been living for hundreds, if not thousands of years is because we do not have the contextual structure to support that, but we are changing that in this generation. I'm giving you a new program. I'm giving you the possibility to understand that if you, with your present cellular body and consciousness, were placed in the correct context, given the right food, if you were subjected to the correct electromagnetic energy fields and vibrations and frequencies, you could live for hundreds of years. You could achieve total vitality. You could be as strong and healthy as an Olympic athlete. It's where we get our word Olympic from. The Olympians, the gods of Olympus. Each one of us is meant to be like an Olympian, like a god of ancient Mount Olympus. The genetic code has been harmed, or we have been asked to live in an aberrant, like non-conformist way that is against what our structure is supposed to be. And that is why we have achieved such short lifespans and with such little vitality. So there's a new program that basically is stating in this generation right now on Earth, our planet is ascending, and the ascension is a consciousness program. So for anyone who is a literalist Christian who believes in the story of the Christian rapture, this is erroneous to believe that your physical body will be lifted up in like a hot air balloon and travel into the sky, into a heavenly realm where you will live in the clouds. That is an erroneous belief, although quite romantic or poetic in its imagery. Ascension is an expansion of your levels of consciousness. You can still be literally in the flesh, on the physical planet, walking on Earth, and achieve ascension because you have changed your mental state to now no longer require the intermediaries of plants or animals. I eat animals. I'm not a vegetarian. My body and this particular blood type, I'm O positive, absolutely requires high protein, high fat, and I eat meat, and I eat it every day unabashedly. I buy sustainably raised, cruelty-free meat and eggs, and that is a crucial part of it because we have to understand that when you are consuming physical objects, you are consuming the energy of those physical objects. So I had to learn about all of this. I came into a physical body. I tried to only consume energy. I could not run that mental program in this context, in this time and place. I had to make concessions to the time and place within which I am submerged. And I had to learn about food. And originally, I just ate whatever tasted good, whatever was available. I had to learn over many years about sugar and about flour and about genetically modified ingredients and what is positive and pro-vitality and what is not pro-vitality. So in short, I do not eat genetically modified organisms. I do not eat processed food. I eat food that is organically grown, organically created, and as close to its original format as possible. And I produce a lot of my own food in my own garden and or buy it locally from local farmers markets and even have farm shares from community-supported agriculture from people who produce eggs and chickens in my neighborhood. And all of this is about sustaining your physical body with the highest quality of energy that we can while we are in the flesh. We are just about to make this transition, and also just about, this is a cosmic moment. Cosmic moment can last for years or decades. So I bring this to you because there are all sorts of channeled information and blogs and every single type of prediction that is made where people will talk about how imminent all of these things are. The imminent arrival of Christ consciousness, or the imminent rapture, or the imminence of planetary ascension. I'm telling you, it is all quite imminent, but it's all happening this moment, but it's a cosmic moment. You know, if the cosmic time scale is one of 13 billion years or 26 billion years, you know, a cosmic moment can last hundreds of years. Understand that we are in that cosmic moment right now. We are transitioning out of the era where we had dense bodies and dense emotions and ate dense food and ran all of the software programs that supported that, and we are moving into a less dense realm. This is the quantum leap to the next electron shell. This is the birth of a new dimension. The next less dense realm is a realm that results by the combination of matter plus energy, okay? So I talked to you a little bit earlier about Einstein and his lovely equation and how all that really did was gave you a slightly expanded cage, because Einstein's equation says E equals mc squared. The equals is like the fulcrum of a lever or the fulcrum of a seesaw. And what we have on one side of the seesaw has to balance with the other side of the seesaw. And what we have on one side is energy, and what we have on the other side is matter. So Einstein, with this lovely equation, has brought all of our consciousnesses into endless duality, matter versus energy. They're on two sides of the seesaw, constantly interrelating. What happens when we put both matter and energy on the same side of the seesaw? That's birth of a new dimension. That is the flying rainbow lasagna. The flying rainbow lasagna is the consciousness tool or new software program that we use to combine two seemingly disparate or separate consciousnesses, concepts, ideas, areas, places, or forms of energy. So we can use the flying rainbow lasagna, if you imagine it, to combine what is on different sides of a membrane, like the ever-expanding surface of a giant bubble, like a giant balloon, and the inside surface and the outside surface can never communicate unless you use the flying rainbow lasagna to vibrate that surface so that now the inside and the outside can communicate. Energy can now flow from the inside to the outside. Now let's say that expanding bubble is the expanding horizon of time that is coming outward, as science describes it, from the explosion of the Big Bang. And the rubber membrane is the present moment of the now, and everything inside of the bubble is the past, and everything beyond the present moment of the now is the future. And the flying rainbow lasagna allows us to seamlessly combine the past and the future. All right? This means that we can combine the realm of pure energy and consciousness, the realm of uncollapsed waveforms, possibilities, and probabilities, the world that has not yet been observed. Remember how I stated the difficulty of observership and the two-slit experiment, etc., etc. As soon as you observe those possible waveforms, they collapse into realities. Imagine utilizing the flying rainbow lasagna as a tool to combine the realm of uncollapsed waveforms and pure probability and possibility with the realm of objects and experiences that we can perceive with our five senses and actually walk around with our physical body. It's like saying we are combining the realm of wishes and dreams and energy and imagination with the realm of objects and things that we experience and that we can see and touch and smell. Well, this is what the new dimension is. The new dimension that we are moving into is a combination of matter plus energy. Our cells of our body are going to no longer be physical cells made of stuff that's called matter that has energy running through it. Oh, no, no. Ah, ha, ha, ha. I laugh at that silly assertion. We are now going to be made of matter that is smart matter, or matter that is the combination of matter plus energy. Matter that responds directly and instantaneously to consciousness. So matter has always responded to consciousness. I don't know if you have ever had this personal experience, but when trying to accomplish any kind of task, like to make a vase on a potter's wheel, like making a ceramic vase, or putting up shelves, or nailing a nail into the wall, the difference between doing it successfully and not doing it successfully, or riding a bicycle, or walking along a tightrope, or making love, or anything, success versus non-success is determined by consciousness. So, from now on, when you are performing any simple activity, putting up shelves, sometimes when I try to, use my drill a nail into the wall, to put up shelves, sometimes it goes in effortlessly. Boom, look at that. The job is done in 5 minutes. Sometimes, no matter how hard I try, the battery won't be charged, the thing goes in crooked, the apparatus doesn't work, the shelves are crooked and fall down. The difference between those two experiences is consciousness. The difference between successfully unclogging your kitchen drain or not being able to unclog the kitchen drain is consciousness. The difference between successfully driving to the store for milk, getting the milk, and returning back home and in one piece is consciousness. Consciousness is the needle on the record that determines what is the song of the life that is being played. In some songs of your life, you go out for milk and you get in a horrible car wreck and you never make it home. Those songs were not listening to the harmonic structure of the cosmos. When you played those songs, you made some sour notes that caused the cellular destruction of your physical form. In some songs of your life, you develop cancer and you die of a horrible tumor. In some songs of your life, you have cancer and you cure yourself of cancer by thinking the right thoughts and exposing yourself to the right energies and medicines and healing substances and activities. So there has always been this mind-body connection, with our state of health and vitality being a direct outgrowth from our consciousness. If you believe in genetic fatalism, that you are fated to have certain genes simply because they are written in your DNA, you will manifest that reality. However, identical twins do not develop identical diseases. They might have the same potential for cancer, but they do not both develop tumors. This tells us that there is something else at work. And the something else, science calls it epigenetics. This means the code that rules the code. Epi is an epiphenomenon, a phenomenon that arises within another phenomenon. So your genes are like a book. There is an editor that is the epigenetic editor that determines what is actually being written. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a new tool that the editor can use to erase the diseases that we don't want to be there and write in their place a program of total health and vitality. So one of the programs you might wish to replace is the concept that you have to kill another being in order for you to be alive. This is this old paradigm program. Something must die in order for me to live. Well, we are heading into a new realm and a new dimension where that dichotomy no longer exists, where we will all be able to live in a state of total health and total vitality without having to eat one another. And this absolutely changes the agenda, because so much of the agenda here in this realm is simply, can it be eaten? Will it eat me? Like, as soon as you go to interact with consciousness, you determine, is this thing something to eat? Is this thing something that is going to eat me? When we get to the next dimension, the next higher levels of consciousness, that will not be the first question that we ask, all right? So you understand, we will be shifting gears. We will be changing the totality of our context, and we will have to develop a new set of contextual roadmaps or contextual behaviors as to what is the right thing to do. So this broadcast, this is all about preparing consciousness of Earth's surface humans for the birth of the new dimension. When we begin interacting with consciousness from another realm, we will not only need to know who are you or what are you, we will need to know when are you from and at what rate are you moving. This has to do with the different levels of consciousness that we will begin interacting with. And I'm heading into the end of this broadcast, but the real lesson is that it's all you. It is all oneness. As we begin to interact with these other levels of consciousness and meet other dimensions, just remember, it's like kissing yourself in the mirror. On that note, I love you all. Thank you for tuning in, and continue giving birth to this beautiful new dimension. Thank you.